really looking forward to this sit-down session with you today. It feels like we have entered into a communication hub, and I'm hearing this is a remote access point actually, where you are remotely tuning in to a very specific frequency that allows for these transmissions not to only be sent out but also received within the coordinates of space-time that you're experiencing yourself in. And I'm also seeing the coordinates within this world and this collision in which we've entered into. So I want to talk about the celestial ball game. This is actually a very interesting concept and story that was unfolding during my journey here in Mexico. And I want to read to you actually the quotes, not the quotes, the notes, the downloads. I was literally speaking into my notepad as I was walking across Chichen Itza, because it was a very interesting experience where there were many celestial guides, and I'm seeing this as you being a celestial guide in this realm. Oof. Okay, let's just go ahead and grab a beautiful crystal. Oh, you guys, this is a raw piece of citrine. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. And I'm seeing you are raw, okay? And when it comes to in the material in which you are here to work with, you are, there's something beautiful about an uncut gem in its authentic, organic nature, and that's something in which you've been able to return back to in that I'm hearing the style of your expression being infinite and not collapsed or limited in any way. Anyway, this is going completely different. There's a lot of strong energy that's coming through, but what I do want to read to you are my downloads that I was receiving. I'm also going to probably weave in some of the videos and or photos across the construct and maybe some illustrations so that you can see the things that I was seeing. And let me immerse you in the scene with me. So walking in Chichen Itza, looking at these beautiful symbols etched into the wall. And within these carvings, there is a point of remembrance and recalibration that's happening within your own internal field as you're looking at an eternal impression ingrained into an impression within time. Now, I'm seeing this as something that has left a mark within the historical timeline of your life, and it led to a point of reference for you, but also a point of remembrance. That point of reference would become a point for you to remember how far is it you've come and just how much contrast in which you would be able to experience, but you now can apply an infinite lens into a situation that once felt so finite for you. So I'm hearing that as a test, that attests to your strength, and that actually could have become a testimony was the word that wanted to come out. This is definitely a free flow session. I was not expecting this opening up, but so immerse back in the photo, right? Immerse back into this frame. There are a bunch of celestial guides and they're giving these tours, and the first thing that I hear on my right side was they could see what was happening from a high perspective and would come from the cosmos and spread word to the masses. And I'm seeing this as you as one of these many fractals of awareness that source has fractalized itself into. And because you're a fractal of awareness that has become conscious and woken up within the construct, there's a different level of embodiment that you're able to move through this construct grounded within. I'm hearing it's a piece that is so specific to your life's journey that even within the most chaotic times, you can still stay anchored into this existence and still see it clearly through the cosmic lens. Now, they were also showing these snakes, and these snakes were branching off into these different tree branches. And this is the serpent being not just a creature, but actually a carrier. These are pathways through which consciousness moves, evolves, and it gets to experience itself. And its movement of consciousness through these different layers and subdivisions and really layers of experience is what I want to say. And you've experienced many layers to this experience where it definitely could feel like you've had many lifetimes within this lifetime alone. This is something that you already know how to do. When we speak about these carvings, they're not just history, but it's actually a memory. It's a level of awareness that doesn't solely originate from the earth, but instead from the cosmos. So it's knowing that would be translated into form, into a symbol to be shared and actually remembered throughout the masses. And this is you serving as actually a reference point or something that leaves an impression on within time. Okay, I almost want to say that it's like there's something that you could say, there's something in which you're being called to create that leaves a deep impression on those traveling through space-time, and also time experiencing itself through many of our coordinates. So the serpent, again, it's not just a creature, but it actually becomes a carrier, a wave of remembrance where the Kundalini rises and the activation takes place, where we finally see our life on earth through the lens of the soul. And one thing that they kept emphasizing was a ball game and a court. We're going to circle back around to this because when I looked into the esoteric, I'm talking about looked within to the esoteric meaning of the ball game, I realized that it's a celestial ball game. And this is the exact thing that I channeled while I was walking amongst the construct. So I wrote, the ball game etherically is a symbol of fertility, which represents the soul participating within this interactive construct. This is the material plane that ends up becoming incredibly abundant for the soul expansion through soul participation alone. So as you have immersed yourself within this terrestrial plane, there is a lot of celestial and etheric growth that's taking part simultaneously. I'm hearing that's happening simultaneously as you move amongst this construct with that level of awareness that you're anchoring into the grid. And so the ball game was never just an external game. When I really dived deep within, I realized that this was a celestial etheric game that was taking place, an energetic mirror of the soul entering the material plane where it would participate, it would engage, and it would play. Fertility is not just the body, but it's of experience itself. The fertility of timelines, of consciousness itself expanding through interaction. What was being shown is that there are those of us who are choosing to play the game very differently during this time, and that means playing it consciously. Do you remember who you are as you move through this gameplay experience, anchoring in higher levels of awareness so that you're no longer just merely interacting with the matrix, but you're seeing it from a unity lens? This is to be greater than the mind, to be greater than the body, and to master your relationship with the material realm because you first mastered your own internal world. That's what this says. And it reminds you of the interface of 3D to 4D to 5D. 4D is the time dimension, right? It's space-time. And so there are different times and space that we can return back to, not linearly, but quantumly as a quantum being, where you can relive the past, your body can relive a past experience in the present moment, hence PTSD and other things in which you can experience when it comes to anxiety. I'm hearing fear of the past or fearful future tripping. So many of us can trip over things that have not even yet happened, where we're just overwhelmed by our own infinite nature and the ways in which reality can unfold, and how can we consciously guide it towards our chosen destination. And then when we reach 5D, well, that's being able to see that we transcend both space and time, and we get to choose what it is that we want to consciously collapse into our experience in the now. Therefore, you're editing your experience. Reality doesn't respond to what it is that you want or what it is that you wish could have happened, but instead what it is that you are and you remember yourself to be. So that's where you move through space-time, but as an eternal being, experiencing temporal moments within eternity. And that's the celestial game that I saw happen, right? Where it's like you are embracing your multidimensionality, where you can be fully immersed within it. And those are the codes, right? Not to escape it, but to actually deepen the totality of this experience in order to feel more alive. It's entire lifetimes compressing evolution into a single experience. When we see it from the grander scheme, right? When we zoom out and see what felt like a storm to simply just be a speck in the grand library that is our lifetimes, that is our temporal lifetimes within all of eternity that we have the privilege of being able to be immersed in and experience the illusion of separation between them all. We fragment into levels, perceiving them as separate, only to reunify them. And so the universe can experience itself on a grander scale. I was then being shown along the wall this image, and the image was of this shamanic higher dimensional being that was actually drinking this water, and then he would actually spit the water out on another organism of consciousness, and that would cause a wave of remembrance. And that's because of the molecular structure. And I'll go ahead and show you the image. But at the molecular structure, water changes its geometric, intricate design, and the intention that's being infused into your very being is actually, I'm hearing, a fundamental part of the foundation in all it is in which you create in this realm. So that could be creative projects that you pour this remembrance into. I'm hearing that you're seated within this level of awareness within, and then that begins to cascade through every being that comes into collision with the things in which you create. That could be music, that could be art, that could be words of expression, it could be things that you write, it may be things that you publish, it may be just the words that you share, where there's this level of remembrance that cascades around the organism and then is absorbed on a cellular level, right? And at the fundamental part of the cell is a nucleus which holds the DNA, which stores memory of remembering who they are, remembering whom you are, which is one, I'm hearing, which is of one nature, which is of one being. So this is specifically what I wrote when I saw the image, or what I was saying. I was actually speaking to my notes. So I said the way I was seeing it was a frequency of water down to the molecular subatomic layer that would hold a very specific frequency or intention. And then that would cascade down another human and flow into the organism. And there would be this remembrance that would take place and would be received. And that shows the shaman that would actually send out that wave of remembrance and would actually become an interface. Give me 1 second. I need to just grab my charger real quick. Okay, so I'm seeing it as you actually being, I just need to move some things around real quick. This could be how you feel in your experience, that there's maybe things that you need to move around so that you can recharge, replenish, and rejuvenate, and just come back into coherence with this remembrance. So I said, expand your awareness if you want to ascend your perspective and frameworks of how you see yourself and your potential in this plane, and the potential in all it is in which that you create. So for the water, I was seeing this frequency, right? You can see it here where it's held not just physically, but at a molecular subatomic level. It carries this intention and memory that's transmitted and then received, like a wave of remembering moving through the body, through the field and the organism itself. These rituals are moments where the seen and unseen merge. And what came through was really clear. If you want to ascend, you have to expand your awareness. And that doesn't happen by leaving this plane, but by changing the way that you perceive what's possible in the now moment. Ascension is not escape, it's a perspective. And when you shift that perspective, you remember who you've been in the game all along. So this is the next part I want to share. I saw this image, and I'm going to do a whole message on this, on my experience in the Seven Dolls Temple. But I met a father who was a gatekeeper of the grounds with his daughter that ended up becoming a huge celestial guide for us through that whole complex. And what was super complex and intricate in the design of that whole day unfolding before me as a memory was literally how we were guided to another ball game court where the dad was like foraging all this vegetation and moving it out of the way to unveil something that was within the complex, within the site, but very few had the privilege of being able to access. The way we got to experience this moment in time in a way that we had experienced within another lifetime, where we found ourselves in the same coordinates on the planet, but in a totally different body, was so beautifully complex. And the thing I want to share is what was written here. So I'm going to go ahead and post it up right here and I'll read it to you. It says, without court, there is no game. And that really stayed with me. And I'll go ahead and throw up the image and read it to you in a moment. But let me explain this, right? So esoterically, what that tells me is that it's not just about the structure, but it's about the container, period. The cosmic overlay over the earth that then becomes the container of experience, because you've incarnated into a beautifully limited avatar, right? Limited to this dimension, but your eternal consciousness, which you are, is not limited to this dimension. It's one of many that you have the privilege of being able to experience yourself within. Now, as you roam this earth according to your divine essence, what this tells us is that without that limitation, there is no experience in this realm, because this avatar or ego has been, I'm hearing, sufficiently designed, okay, very self-organized within its design to assist the soul in its intentions of what it wants to experience through form. And that becomes a divine instrument for us to be able to complete our mission that anchors us into this experience. And without boundaries, there would be no interaction, right? Without boundaries or the illusion of separation between you and I, there would be no interaction with consciousness in this beautiful design. So we actually get to experience ourselves as separate instead of just this merged, unified field, right? Yes, we all emerge from that unified field, but we also are individual expressions of awareness. And once we begin to live according to that essence, and we begin to own and unapologetically express our divine, unique energetic signature and the gifts in which we are, and we embrace ourselves in our full expression without comparison, because there is no other like you and there will never be another like you. And there is beauty in that remembrance. Okay, that's probably the takeaway message from it all, to be honest. So what I want to do now is, let me read this to you, just because I feel as if you're going to receive some codes if I read this. So it says, without court, there is no game. It says, the ball game is the most common culture and architectonic element among the Mesoamerican peoples. Its dimensions may vary a lot in different archaeological sites. The purpose of the ball game was related to a ritual and political character necessary to maintain the status of the urban center. This is the part that gets me. It says, to participate involved belonging to a group. It could represent a lineage or an astronomical phenomenon related to life and death. So I see this as life and death is transformation that occurs, and different mediums in which the soul is able to inhabit that transform the way that it experiences life on earth. And there's something beautifully being expressed through you as you clear up distortion in the way that you see yourself, because you are a fractal of infinite potential. And when you clear up those belief systems that have distorted or disrupted the way that you see yourself as a creator within your own experience, something magnificent begins to unlock when it comes to the full human potential in the way that it is able to experience the totality of what Gaia has in store for them when you remember yourself. So that is the main message or the main takeaway, the fertility of experiences here in this realm. Now, I want to pull probably some messages for this just to close out. And the first one is going to be a gateway of the light activation message. Okay. So you have two. Have you got a moment? Because we might be here a while. What the actual heck? Wow, I was gonna do a whole nother reading on this alone, like actually a teaching on it. Listen to this, right? not only do you have Lemurian energy, which is Lemurian seed codes, it talks about embracing sensitivity, uniqueness, and living with grace, which is the feminine. This was a civilization that was able to activate the magnetite crystal within their brain, so the electromagnetic field, where they would be very in tune with the shifts of Gaia. And it was very much in the feminine, right? So telekinesis, telepathy, tuning into all non-physical abilities, really being able to remember your non-physical state as a spiritual being having a human experience. But the fall of that civilization came because of wanting to escape this world instead of anchoring into it even more and just seeing through the illusion of separation clearly between you and everything else in which you're interacting with within this realm. So that led to the fall. It was the over feminine and the lack of embodiment and being able to actually embrace the physical. Now, then you have Memories of Atlantis, which was the other, pendulum swinging into the opposite direction. So that pendulum swinging, I'm going to go ahead and grab one of my necklaces that will give you an example of the pendulum so I can show you what happened. Because as a collective, we have experienced this pendulum swing, and then from this we went into this, right? Memories of Atlantis was the complete other way. It was being overly in here, right? So this is the overactive masculine, whereas this was the overactive feminine. And this is saying that you're now integrating both into this experience. The overactive masculine was consciousness not evolving to a point where it would be in harmony with technology. So it would be over logical. It wouldn't have been as spiritually inclined and would have immersed itself too much into the physical realm that it forgot about its own etheric nature. And that came with its own set of consequences. So both of these were kind of a wipeout, like, okay, let's reset and let's try to integrate both of these aspects. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my necklace quickly so I can give you an example of the pendulum swinging. So when we speak about the Lemurian energy, and I'll go ahead and read it for you in a bit, they were able to unlock things and restore things and anchor it into the physical when it comes to telekinesis, telepathy, electromagnetic gifts and abilities, where they were super in tune with the earth and the universal flow. So much so that they were no longer anchored into this construct, right? So they tuned into, yes, intuition and unity, but without enough structure or the masculine to be able to actually ground it, which caused complete disillusion, right? They completely transcended the physical realm where they weren't actually able to even participate in this construct. And so that was like the feminine, right? You can think about it as transforming from carbon-based back into crystalline form, right? So that's what happened. We had this pendulum, and this is a balanced state of what pendulum should be. And then we far went left. As a collective, we went like this, guys, okay? Now, what happens when us as little organisms go against the whole universal flow of this whole entire construct? Well, things come out of balance, right? The universe doesn't pull us away, but it pulls us inwards and say, maybe there's something that we should revisit if we really want to participate within the human experience, right? So we went like this, completely out of whack, right? So it took a while for things to kind of, come back into balance. And before they did, we went completely far right. Okay, we went completely far right. And this symbolizes the Atlantean energy. So this is the Memories of Atlantis. Now, Atlantis fell through the opposite distortion, which was overactive masculine force. So it represents control and intellect without heart, which led to the collapse of that society because we were more focused on things like separation and control and division. And so your consciousness has returned back to the earth during this time, right? Where this was the last civilization, where now we're experiencing the pendulum begin to come back into harmonic order, right? So to incarnate into a human vessel on earth during this time is that you have come here to master both. You have experienced both, and the complete overactive and also underactive side of things. Now, what things are going to look like is to unify both of them. So it's to anchor intuition into form. It's to be able to kind of bring structure into harmony and into the heart space where you can actually create from the heart space in the system, and to become a living embodiment of the divine masculine and divine feminine. So to master your mind, master your emotions, and actually master your relationship with the physical material plane. And that's full embodiment while inside of matter. To not just be a human being having spiritual experiences, but to remember yourself as a spiritual being having a human experience. And then that navigates the way that you move through this construct. Wow, that is so interesting. I've never had these two energies come together like this before. So you've incarnated on Earth during a very interesting time. So I'm going to go ahead and read this just in case you're not that familiar with it, or there's like a little recollection. I feel like actually diving through some of my notes on this just to get into this further. I guess Spirit is bringing up this subject before I was even fully able to structure it into form. So it feels like something that we're encoding in real time. So these are highly sensitive beings. You might feel that this is a cast, that you're highly sensitive, but this card is to let you know that it's a gift. It indicates that you have spent lifetimes upon lifetimes living with a giant shield up to stop the world from seeing the real you. Now, what was the main message that we took, right? Boundaries allows for us to have an interactive experience in this realm. So this is also about discerning what is yours and also what another fractal of awareness is going through, whether they're conscious of that or not. Doesn't negate the fact that there's still a fractal of infinite potential and literally have within them everything that's designed to not just come out on the other side of, but come out stronger, come out more wiser, come out enlightened on the other side of what we're moving through. So it's trusting that process and also trusting yourself as you move through that process as well. So through embracing your uniqueness, you can help many others embrace their own. This lifetime is a more graceful existence with less defense and more trust. It's not about protecting yourself, but stepping into a space of surrender and revealing your true self. So this is something that you're returning to. It's something that is actually safe to do. Lemuria was a civilization that was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean in ancient times. The inhabitants of the sacred land lived in complete harmony with nature and had a connection with every living being, similar to the movie Avatar. Their inner vision was fully activated to the point where it was thought that their pineal gland was fully developed and they could see for hundreds of miles in every direction, similar to sonar waves of dolphins and whales. The majority opened from their heart space, honoring one another and nature, so much so that their civilization came to the end of a catalysm event. Most likely, plates of the earth shifting, causing volcanic eruptions like a tsunami. Most of them ascended. It's said that these highly attuned beings knew that their civilization would end and decided to send healing waves into another part of the world for future civilizations to benefit from. They telepathically channeled their frequencies that would be found possibly millions of years later. These Lemurian seeds are a type of quartz crystal that we're able to connect with, and the barcodes engraved on their faces. The feminine receptive energy that is said to help us step into a more feminine way of being, and in order to help the evolution of the species. And with Atlantean energy, again, that was the other side of the spectrum, right? So Atlantis talks about, I'm hearing civilizations rise and fall, but the memories and the lessons still exist within you. And that's something in which you're exercising and actually bringing forth ancient knowledge into the new age, if you will. Let me go and find Memories of Atlantis. Oh, where's the M? Okay. Memories of Atlantis talks about, legend has it, Atlantis was an advanced civilization that existed thousands of years ago in the center of the Atlantic Ocean. Its people were highly evolved with many spiritual gifts, again, that you brought forth from this time. They were telepathic, extremely psychic, and known for their ability to combine the laws of science and spirituality to develop technology and create heaven on earth. But somewhere along the way, many of them stopped respecting their gifts and their spiritual connection. So somewhere along the way, you abandoned this gift, okay? Us as a collective, we did. And the disrespect for the earth caused a great catalysm that brought their civilization to an end. The Atlanteans, who had continued to live with spiritual integrity, had an awareness of what was to come and were able to achieve full ascension and move beyond the physical realm and that of light. They're now a congregation of evolved souls who, like angels, masters, and work with those upon planet Earth who are following the ascension path of alignment, devotion, and love. If this card comes up or it's a strong energy that seems familiar, there's a good chance that you're a former Atlantean who didn't honor your spiritual connection and are being given the opportunity to avoid making the same mistakes. So this is all to do with like karmic imbalances, the cause and effect, like collective karma that we're all, returning back to kind of resolve and alchemize. So it talks about receiving blessings for the evolution of the soul. You are becoming aware of your gifts, and it's an exciting time. And it's also a time where the energy of the ego can become loud and obnoxious. Know that this gateway is appearing to remind you to stay aligned with the highest good and be rooted in the energies of devotion. And there can be a great coming together of the spiritual and the physical, where you can live in a more evolved way. And then we have 𝓭𝓪𝓬𝓻 activation here at the base, which talks about the inability to disrespect our cosmic brothers and sisters as we move upon this construct, because to hurt another is also to hurt yourself. And when we recognize that all cruelty springs from weakness and all compassion springs from coherence, right? Being able to see our interconnectedness to all things, there is a level of awareness and unconditional love that we see the world through. Now, with the Lemurian seed codes, I kind of see it as you may be finding something that has deeply helped you connect with yourself across lifetimes. And I'm just seeing it as a balance that's happening, okay? Some kind of balance that's happening where there's been an imbalance, maybe a lack of embodiment, where yes, you've been able to retrieve into yourself. Yes, you've been able to kind of come back into yourself and retrieve many gifts and abilities, but now it's about the physical embodiment of what does that look like to actually move through life, exercising those capabilities, and what timelines does that open up for you. And what's also interesting with the 𝓭𝓪𝓬𝓻 activation energy is that it's said that the 𝓭𝓪𝓬𝓻s actually seeded the Lemurians onto certain parts of this planet, which is places like Hawaii or Australia, right? So that's super interesting as well. So I'm seeing it as grid work in which you're doing as you're walking upon this construct, seeded in that remembrance. I'm definitely going to write something out further for this and dive deep into it. I've kind of been working on this behind the scenes, but I just didn't expect it to show face right now like this. The fact that they both came out together, that's a fast for me. That's confirmation to do a teaching on this. Let me know if that's something that you'd want to see when we speak about the overactive feminine or underactive feminine, the overactive masculine, underactive masculine, what that's look like collectively for us in timelines, and how we can begin to actually anchor both. Maybe that's going to be an embodied teaching that we do to dive deep further into it, because right now I kind of just scratched the surface. That was like the iceberg tip on the surface that we've just seen. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get a closing out message for you. What was this reading about again? It was the celestial ball game. So that makes sense, right? It's cosmic beings that have a higher level of awareness that come in to warn the masses, right? To inform the masses. So I'm hearing to warn it's not to invoke fear, but it's to bring about a level of remembrance. And that could be the fourth dimensional experience where you can travel back parallel into moments of time and bring forth the lessons. Okay, now you have eclipse. Eclipse is something that has been blocking or distorting your light. So it talks about one thing blocking another, and that could be sight. Rotation and revolution is a kind of retrograde and a going direct card. So it speaks about having to do an internal shift so that you can then shift the literal place that you're in. And that could be the way in which you're experiencing reality, starting from a shift of perspective. Okay, your intention for why you're here being something that does allow you to get clear on what your next steps would be and being able to organize your life around that mission. Or else we do fall into nihilism in this construct. I'm going to get one advice card for you as well with a tarot message. God, I'm like really interested in the fact that that came out today. That's definitely a message in which we should dive deeper into. I've been speaking a lot about that. So we have the Tower. Embrace destabilization because it becomes a very reason for your transformation. The Tower card in this deck also talks about the shore. So this is the merging of the physical and the non-physical realms, right? So there is something in which is coming to the surface within you that's being called to be embodied. And the reason I say that is because you have the Emperor at the base, which is a divine masculine card, right? Now, let me read the short explanation of the Tower in this deck. Goodness. Catastrophic, right? Catastrophic, swift change, accident, and turbulence. In time, the crashing waves on the shore are sure to erode the cliff's edge and send the fragile tower toppling into the ocean below. While you might not be able to change exterior influences, you can change how you react to drastic upheaval. Be ready for a swift change at any moment. Wow. Now, it's also about landing on your feet, even if you feel like the ground beneath you is still shaky. Don't live in fear for the next obstacle that comes your way. You've proven yourself a conqueror once before, and you will prevail once again. So this could be a reminder message that you will overcome anything in which you move through. You already have. You're now witnessing the story of how that unfolds in your life. Let's get a Shaman's Dream Oracle message, and then I'll love and leave you right there. Goodness gracious. Dream thief refusal of the core. This talks about hypnotic energy. It can be so easy for this dream ally to essentially rock us back into our comfort zone. And that's what it speaks about. Are you going to stay within your comfort zone and not take action and stay so much in Lemurian seed codes where there's a lot of internal being seated within your emotions, being seated within being a space cadet, which is a term that Stephanie and I enjoy using. A space cadet is somebody who is so much in the upper chakras to the point where they're not present in the physical realm and things that they're doing. You live in your imagination so much so that there is an inaction that happens in your life. You dream about the things that you're doing instead of anchoring your future and your dream into the action that you're doing in the present moment to actually support that dream. It's somebody that lives in their head or overwhelmed, so much so that there is a incongruency between the things that you want and the things that you actually physically apply yourself towards. And part of this physical third dimensional experience is that your actions are the very things that send ripples through space and time. It's your action that collapses potential into reality. So it goes from mind into matter, from mind into matrix, and you are the key to all of creation. So what do you want to anchor and create into this experience? But when you do take action, do it from a place of coherence. Remember who you are as you are doing it, and watch your power translate into the physical realm. So I will love and leave you right there. If you guys want to see that message of the Lemurian and the Atlantean energy on a teaching episode, I would definitely love to dive deep into that. I was going to do that way further down the timeline, I guess, but now it's kind of feels like it's been expedited. It almost feels as if there are so many of you who have shifted that collective timeline in which I'm now seeing ripple into the experience, where there's a huge integration. It's like you have incarnated on planet Earth during this time for that reason. There's a lot in which you're alchemizing when it comes to these parallel lives, and a lot that you're being able to do in this realm. There's a lot that you're doing now in this realm and showing up for yourself now in this realm in which you were previously unable to. So you're doing it for all those who have come before and for all those who will come after. You're not just closing a cycle, but you're showing, I'm hearing assisting that a cycle ascend into a high octave. So I'm gonna love and leave you right there. Thank you so much for joining me here throughout this journey, throughout this message. It's a very, very interesting one. So thank you for gracing it with your presence. We also have possibility for union at the base here. So on the other side of your comfort zone, there is a bridge of vulnerability that ends up becoming a connecting point for you. The vulnerability could be in putting yourself or your work out there in some kind of way, your message, your signal to be able to be received. So yeah, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, do consider subscribing, because we love to have you around. I'd love to have you around. Personal reading details are also down below. Also check out 𝓤𝓪 if you're looking for some high quality AAA grade gemstones. One of the proceeds are donated towards 𝓤𝓪 sanctuaries. And we have a really exciting collection coming out soon. I so look forward to sharing that with you guys at the speed of alignment. And until next time, bye!